Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. The top White House pandemic advisor saying the U.S. doesn't have the capability to test all illegal border crossers. We take a look at the scope of the border crisis now. Terrorism charges for the suspected Michigan school shooter. Who were the victims in the tragedy, and was it an act of impulse? Authorities have not yet offered a motive. More developments on the investigation by the House January 6 committee. The committee has voted to hold a second former Trump official in contempt. They say he's failed to cooperate. And the wife of a black music legend was shot dead in her Los Angeles home. Speculation has it that it was linked to a robbery. The investigation is still ongoing. New virus testing requirements for visitors entering the United States apparently don't extend to illegal immigrants crossing the border. White House pandemic advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci says it's not possible. NTD's Jessica Beatty has more.
White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci said Wednesday, President Biden's new testing rules for visitors are a different issue to the testing of illegal immigrants crossing the border.
We still have Title 42 with regard to protection at the border. So there are protections at the border that you don't have the capability, as you know, of somebody getting on a plane, getting checked, looking at a passport. We don't have that there, but we can get some degree of mitigation.
And the border crisis doesn't seem to be getting better. In 1 week in Texas alone, nearly 23,000 illegal immigrants from 40 countries were apprehended. That's according to a November 2nd law enforcement report from the Texas Department of Public Safety. It was obtained by the Epoch Times. The weekly reports are issued to law enforcement and people in government, but the public is kept in the dark. Looking at the past 4 weeks in Texas, about 22,000 illegal immigrants were apprehended on average per week. 68% were from countries other than Mexico. Based on those numbers, it would mean over 1 million illegal immigrant apprehensions over the past year in Texas alone. The U.S. is expected to soon restart the Remain in Mexico policy as soon as Mexico agrees. That's according to Fox News, citing a DHS spokesperson. Former President Trump first implemented the policy. The Biden administration tried to end it, but lost legal battles. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Democrats and Republicans in the House are set to negotiate on a funding bill to avoid a government shutdown. If the House approves, then the Senate would vote on it. If they pass it, President Biden would then need to sign the measure into law. If passed, it would fund the government until February 18th. Negotiations are set to take place today. Congress has until midnight Friday to pass the measure and avoid a shutdown. It's a stopgap measure, meaning it would not allow new funding changes, but would keep funding for federal agencies at current levels. Exceptions include $7 billion for Afghan evacuees. Some Republicans are threatening to delay the bill in protest of Biden's vaccine mandate. They could require an amendment that removes funding for the mandate before they agree to the stopgap measure. Suspect Ethan Crumbley has been charged with terrorism and murder. The 15-year-old is accused of opening fire at a Michigan high school on Tuesday. He's pleading not guilty to several charges. Crumbley was charged with 1 count of terrorism causing death, 7 counts of assault with intent to murder, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 12 counts of possession of a firearm during a felony. The sophomore pleaded not guilty to all charges, and he is being charged as an adult. Prosecutor Karen McDonald claims the shooting was premeditated. She based her conclusion on evidence and says it was not an impulsive act.
There's a mountain of digital evidence. We haven't gone through all of it, but in terms of the premeditation required for a first-degree murder charge, this just wasn't even a close call, unfortunately. This was deliberate. This was planned well in advance, and disturbingly so. And so those charges are appropriate.
He allegedly killed 4 students and wounded 7 others when he allegedly fired more than 30 rounds. Authorities learned that troubled officials met with Crumbley's parents shortly before the shooting. Michigan's Attorney General explains the terrorism charge.
You commit such an act knowing that it's your intent really to cause fear and to threaten a civil population or to influence or affect government in some way, and a school, of course, is a unit of government. So, it's a charge we don't see very frequently, but it seems very applicable in this instance.
The violence took place at Oxford High School, which is about 30 miles north of Detroit. One of the 4 students killed was Tate Meyer. He was cut down at 16 years old. He was an outstanding athlete at Oxford High School, a rising football star. Officials said Meyer died in a police car as an officer tried to bring him to the hospital. The other victims are Hannah St. Juliana, Madison Baldwin, and Justin Schilling. Our hearts go out to their friends and families. Each had a dream and daily doings. St. Juliana was the youngest. She had just made her high school debut the night before. Schilling was a captain of the school's bowling team, and Baldwin, an aspiring artist and the eldest of 3. The House January 6 committee is taking action against a former Trump official who they say is refusing to cooperate. The committee votes to recommend criminal charges against Jeffrey Clark, who served as the former acting assistant U.S. Attorney General under Trump. Here are the details.
The House January 6 committee voted on Wednesday to recommend criminal charges against Jeffrey Clark. Committee members say he's not cooperating with their subpoenas issued in October. Clark is the second person the committee has voted to recommend criminal charges against, following Steve Bannon. Clark served as acting assistant attorney general in the Justice Department under former President Trump until he left earlier this year. Clark's lawyer says Clark intends to plead the Fifth Amendment. The committee says there will be another deposition this weekend. There, Clark will have the opportunity to attend. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who sits on the committee, says the contempt process would not be finalized as long as Clark genuinely cures his failure and shows up on Saturday. At the same time, Trump also commented on the events of January 6th in an interview with GB News on British TV.
Well, you know, that was a rally that was there, and if you look, it was a massive rally with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. I think it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. And I reverse it. The insurrection took place on November 3rd. That was Election Day, and before and after. That was, to me, the insurrection. And the January 6th was a protest.
The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit on Tuesday heard arguments over the investigation into January 6th. The House January 6 committee has asked the National Archives to turn over visitor logs, phone records, and written communications between Trump's advisors. The judges showed skepticism towards Trump's bid to prevent turning over the records.
The former spokesman for the Washington, D.C. mayor is switching to the Republican Party. He cites Biden's immigration policies and the economy in his decision. Victor Jimenez said on Fox News that he was the lead public information officer at D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser's office for community affairs. Jimenez is an immigrant from the Caribbean. He says Biden's border policy is negatively impacting Hispanic families in his home state of Virginia. He also spoke on Spanish television network Telemundo about his switch to the Republican Party. He says Biden destroyed the economy. He told Fox News that because he is Hispanic and black, he is expected to be a Democrat and be supportive of illegal immigration, and says now he is going against that narrative. And while demonstrations were taking place outside, the U.S. Supreme Court heard opening arguments on the case. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
2 major cases were referenced today when Mississippi's abortion law was appealed at the Supreme Court. One was the monumental Roe v. Wade that in 1973 legalized abortion nationwide. The other case was Casey versus Planned Parenthood, which took place in 1992. Both cases determined that states cannot ban abortion after a fetus is viable or can survive outside the womb. This is generally viewed by doctors as between 24 to 28 weeks into the pregnancy.
Roe and Casey's core holding, according to those courts, is that the people can protect an unborn girl's life when she just barely can survive outside the womb, but not any earlier when she needs a little more help.
Stewart said abortion is a hard issue, and where the Constitution does not take sides on it, the decision belongs to the people. He asked the Supreme Court to overturn Roe and Casey, and he asked them to uphold states' laws on abortion. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer said that won't be so easy, and he quoted part of the Casey case.
Only, quote, the most convincing justification can show that a later decision overruling, if that's what we did, was anything but a surrender to political pressures or new members.
On the other hand, Julie Reichelman, the attorney representing Mississippi's only abortion clinic, sees it differently than Stewart. The Supreme Court justices pressured her on the difference between banning abortions at 24 weeks versus 15 weeks. She went on to explain the impact if time was decreased for getting an abortion.
People who need abortion after 15 weeks are often in the most challenging circumstances. As I mentioned, they're people who have perhaps had a major health or life change, a family illness, a job loss, a separation.
The court will be back in session Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Jason Perry, NTD News.
A ransomware attack on Planned Parenthood in Los Angeles has exposed the personal data of nearly 500,000 patients. The healthcare provider said it happened in October. According to a breach notification the organization sent to victims, an unidentified perpetrator stole documents that contained sensitive information on some patients, like insurance information, their diagnosis, procedure, or prescription. A spokesperson for Planned Parenthood Los Angeles said there is no evidence that it was a targeted attack or that the stolen information has been used for fraudulent purposes. And how are Californians reacting to news of Omicron's arrival in their state? NTD's Eileen Ng has more.
The California and San Francisco Departments of Public Health confirmed the first case of the Omicron variant after a traveler returned from South Africa on November 22nd.
We were able to confirm the detection of Omicron within 5 hours, and we had most of the genome within 8 hours.
San Francisco Mayor London Breed's response is to get vaccinated.
We know that we have a number of challenges that continue to persist with the COVID-19 virus, and what this means is we want to make sure that people get vaccinated.
Well, thank you.
The governor said the individual is between the ages of 18 and 49 and reminds people to get the vaccine or booster shot regardless of age.
We are not surprised by this. This was predictable. This was predicted. And it, again, is not surprising the state of California because of its sequencing and because of its aggressive testing protocols, including, by the way, crazy.
Health officials said the individual has the full Moderna vaccine but did not get a booster shot yet. We asked locals what their thoughts are on the new variant. Here's what they said.
Yes, I test once a week through my work, so I feel pretty safe, and I've been triple vaccinated. Well, I'm just hoping that the vaccine works against it and that we don't have to worry too much. If we do get it, it'll be low symptoms, I hope.
It's concerning that it is still mutating, it is still spreading, but I'm hoping that it's a more mild strain.
Eileen Ng, NTD News, California.
Now we take a closer look at how Biden's vaccine mandate is affecting major airlines. There's growing criticism that the mandate is hypocritical by giving airlines a free pass. To address this, I spoke with Rick Mehta, who is a former FDA official, a healthcare professor, and a candidate for the U.S. House from New Jersey. He explains how this claim about the mandate relates to the CEOs of American and Southwest Airlines, saying they won't fire unvaccinated staff.
You know, there is absolutely no good science that supports vaccine mandates altogether, no less carving out exceptions for one particular industry. And, you know, they're suffering from loss after loss in the court systems right now. And I think the court systems are starting to see that even the Biden administration is tripping over their own 2 feet and aren't providing the right facts and evidence to effectuate these mandates. So, you know, I'm glad the courts are getting it right, but the Biden administration continues to fail the American people.
Rick, what information do you have that suggests Biden will bow to special interests like the airline industry instead of these big companies being subject to penalties like other federal contractors?
Well, let's look at the facts, right? How does it make sense that if you really believe that you have to mandate vaccines, that if you're in an airplane with 100 strangers, that you don't need to be vaccinated, and yet when you go into the workplace where there's a lot of sprawl and spread, notwithstanding that many people work from home, and you try to impose vaccine mandates, it doesn't make sense. You heard the Secretary Pete Buttigieg say that, well, masks are highly effective. Well, if that's the case and masks work in planes, then why do you need to impose vaccine mandates?
Well, as a deputy director at the FDA, what should Americans do knowing that if they fly over the holidays, there's a good chance some of the airline staff won't be vaccinated, especially considering how you mentioned Transportation Secretary Buttigieg said masks are highly effective, and that's why they don't require vaccines to fly?
Yeah, listen, all Americans should talk to their doctors, their nurses, and their trusted healthcare professionals and decide what's best for them. Look, the airlines are going to force people to do things and wearing masks. Even Fauci himself has admitted that masks aren't effective. So, again, there aren't real scientific decision makers within this administration, and I'd hesitate to even trust what Pete Buttigieg has to say about this.
Let's look at some statistics. About a quarter of American Airlines pilots are unvaccinated. Delta's at about 90% vaccinated, and United is close to 99%. Are you concerned the vaccine mandate will cause a critical mass of pilots to be fired, derailing the airline industry, so to speak?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, we've already had pilots step up and say that if you force me to vaccinate, then I'm going to step off of this job. I mean, we're already in a major labor shortage and a crunch onto our workplace. So, to get the economy rolling again, and pilots and airlines are critical to the trade and commerce in our country. To force these vaccine mandates, you are going to see shortages of employees and labor, not just pilots, but airline employees altogether. There's a lot of safety employees that go into protecting the safety for the airlines pilots. So they too are going to be stepping up and leaving the workplace as well. We see it in droves in healthcare systems already. So, there's no shortage of that going to be happening down the pike.
NTD reached out to the president's office for comment on this claim, but we haven't heard back yet. The wife of the man known as the Godfather of black music was shot and killed early Wednesday. Speculation links the shooting to a home invasion, but local police say the motive remains unclear.
Jacqueline Avant, the wife of legendary music executive Clarence Avant, was fatally shot. Local police chief Mark Stainbrook released the details at a news conference.
This morning, December 1st at approximately 2:23 a.m., the Beverly Hills Police Communications Center received a phone call regarding a shooting that had just occurred on the 1100 block of Maytor Place. Police units arrived and discovered a victim with a gunshot wound. The suspect or suspects were no longer on the scene.
Avant was soon taken to the hospital but did not survive. The investigation is still ongoing. The shooting occurred at the couple's Beverly Hills home in Los Angeles. Media gathered in the neighborhood Wednesday, with police restricting access to the apartment. The region has seen a wave of break-ins by street gang-related burglars. Some of the most recent victims have been celebrities. Stainbrook said the motive behind the Avant case remains unclear. He did not specify whether she was killed in a robbery, as some media have speculated.
I don't think it's a random attack, but I can't speculate on that right now.
Avant was a local philanthropist. She served on the board of directors of the International Student Center at the University of California, Los Angeles. Her 90-year-old husband, known as the Godfather of black music, is a recent inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Both former President Barack Obama and Vice President Kamala Harris paid tribute to him. The couple married in 1967 and had 2 children.
Police say robbers targeted a mother with a baby after she opened the gates to her home in Los Angeles. Surveillance video recorded the scene as the woman returned home from a walk. A silver car with tinted windows came to a halt across the street from the woman's home. 2 masked men got out of the car and entered the driveway as the woman was approaching the steps of her home. Police say the thieves demanded she hand over her belongings. The woman complied and allowed one robber to take her diaper bags and a bottle cooler as the other watched. The robbers ran back to the waiting vehicle and fled. The theft occurred on November 28th. The Los Angeles Police Department released the video in an effort to find the thieves. And looking now to the Salvation Army, which has removed a document from its website that critics say subscribes to critical race theory. The organization says the document was misinterpreted. The organization's document was titled, "Let's Talk About Racism." It encouraged readers to repent over racism and to ask God to open their hearts and minds to the issue of racism. It also says America was built on racism and it is strongly felt in every aspect of American life. The organization approved the document in April 2021. It was published by the Salvation Army International Social Justice Commission and removed last week. The Salvation Army issued a press release saying its guide was intended as a voluntary resource that wasn't meant to tell people how to think. It added that the message in the guide has been misinterpreted, saying it's to support other agendas. It also said its international headquarters realized that certain aspects of the guide may need to be clarified. After his acquittal, Kyle Rittenhouse has said he wants to go back to college and just move on as a normal 18-year-old, but that may be easier said than done. Some student groups on his campus are already demanding he be kicked out. NTD's Iris Tao has more.
We won't let him. That's what some students are saying about the possibility that Kyle Rittenhouse be allowed back in school next semester. Several student groups at Arizona State University hold a rally Wednesday afternoon. They demand the 18-year-old, who was previously enrolled as an online student at ASU, be banned from studying at the university now and forever. This comes despite the fact that a jury has found Rittenhouse not guilty after fatally shooting 2 men during violent riots in Kenosha last year. Students for Socialism ASU, which is one of the protest organizers, says the ban is to protect students from a violent murderer. Some, however, disagree.
I think he should absolutely be allowed to be a student.
Ryan Bollick is a second-year undergrad student at ASU. He's also the president of the student club Young Americans for Liberty. Bollick thinks Rittenhouse should have the right to continue his studies, though he might face backlash from certain groups.
So these groups that are starting these protests, while they are extremely loud and a lot of their demands are really absurd, they are a very small minority of the student body here at ASU.
In addition to have him withdrawn, Students for Socialism is also demanding that the university release a statement against, quote, white supremacist and racist murderer Kyle Rittenhouse. And almost 15,000 people have signed an online petition with similar demands. Bollick says although he supports these groups' rights to free speech and protest, they should be mindful of potential consequences of what they're saying.
Rittenhouse, just for these protests, could have grounds to sue them because they've been labeling him as a murderer, and calling somebody a murderer who has been acquitted of murder could definitely be really solid grounds for a defamation suit.
But it's not just the word murderer. Labels such as white supremacist and racist are also raising concerns. Morgan Zegers, founder of Young Americans Against Socialism, points to an increasingly tense atmosphere on American college campuses.
The radical leftist college system that's ruining our country and that wants us removed. Whenever I try and go and speak on a campus, I'm called a Nazi, a white supremacist, all the words. And so it's hard to keep up.
And it's not just about one person or one group being targeted, Zegers says. Other meaningful discussions can also be stifled.
If we can't agree on the basics as a society, especially things like science or things like self-defense, things like our Second Amendment rights, what can we agree on? How can we justify an honest debate on any issue if we can't agree on the basics?
Bollick, meanwhile, has a word for Rittenhouse, who has said he plans to go back to school next semester.
I would want to let him know not all of us, or these students for socialism, are not representative of the ASU body whatsoever.
Bollick also invites Rittenhouse to join his club, but says it's fine if he just wants to be another student on campus.
The majority of the students here have no issue with Kyle coming to campus. So I really hope that these protests don't deter him from wanting to go to ASU.
Iris Tao, NTD News.
Following his not guilty verdict, Facebook is also removing restrictions on Rittenhouse. The social media giant says users are no longer limited from searching about Rittenhouse or praising his actions, though a Facebook spokesman says the platform will still remove posts that applaud the killings that occurred. Rittenhouse himself will also be able to rejoin Facebook if he so chooses. Still to come, a Major League Baseball lockout, the league's 9th labor stoppage ever after negotiations stalled. And crowds gather at Rockefeller Center Wednesday night to witness the lighting of this year's Christmas tree. Tourists come from across the country and across the world. Find out more here on NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security.
Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. Before all this started, I had already written in my memoir, I dedicate this book to anyone that's looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible. To thank you all for your support, I'm offering some of my best prices ever on MyPillow products, including this exclusive bundle. You get my book and these 5 MyPillows. They all have beautiful scenes and verses from the Bible, such as Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. This 6-pack bundle is regularly $219. Now it's just $99.98 and free shipping with your promo code. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below. Thank you and God bless.
This year's Capitol Christmas tree lights up on the West Lawn, bringing Americans together during the holiday season. And at the White House, the president hosted another lighting ceremony for Hanukkah. Let's take a look.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Capitol Christmas tree lights finally glowed on Wednesday night. Members of Congress joined the celebration outside the U.S. Capitol. Speaking at the lighting ceremony, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called the tree a symbol of hope.
That is earned the endless nickname, the People's Tree, a testament to its special ability to unite us in comfort and joy, no matter who we are, where we're from. So let us give thanks for the many blessings which God has bestowed upon us, in which we rejoice this holiday season.
This year's tree is an 84-foot white fir shipped from the Six Rivers National Forest in California. Nicknamed Sugar Bear, it's decorated with more than 15,000 ornaments made by the California community.
It's unique, as Senator Feinstein told you, the most ornaments ever, because it comes from the most populated state in our nation. It came from one end of our nation to the other.
The U.S. Capitol Christmas tree is a tradition that's lasted more than 50 years. Once lit, its lights will shine from nightfall until 11 p.m. each day through Christmas. The same night at the White House, a menorah lighting ceremony marked the 4th night of Hanukkah. Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff attended the event as the first Jewish spouse of an American president or vice president. Addressing a crowd of dignitaries in the East Room, he said he was honored by the invitation.
It's humbling, and it's not lost on me that I stand before you all on behalf of all the Jewish families and communities out there across our country. I understand that, and I really appreciate it.
President Biden welcomed Emhoff, saying he turned a White House tradition into a family tradition. The president added that the story of Hanukkah holds a powerful lesson for generations.
In darkness, there's light. In cynicism, there's hope and optimism and an unyielding belief that miracles are possible.
The White House said a Holocaust survivor designed the menorah, which was on loan from the National Museum of American Jewish History.
And over at the Rockefeller Center, crowds gathered to witness the lighting of the Christmas tree. For some, it was a new experience. For others, it was nostalgic. NTD's Andrew Thomas takes us there.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Tourists from across the country and across the world packed Rockefeller Center for the annual lighting of the Christmas tree. The crowd sang Christmas carols, screamed in excitement, and took pictures and videos of the shimmering 12-ton Christmas tree Wednesday night.
It's really exciting. You know, the first time I ever came to Rockefeller Center was probably, 20 plus years ago, and I was a little girl. And, seeing the tree this year is extra special because it was from my own backyard, so it's awesome.
Alessia Cara and Pentatonics were among the performers ahead of the lighting. The tree was strung with 50,000 multicolored LED lights and topped with a star weighing in at 900 pounds. Ann Lawson was visiting from Colorado Springs. She was happy to return to New York for the ceremony.
It's great. I grew up on Long Island and haven't been back since I moved to Colorado when I was 11. And it was my dream, and my son gave me this trip, and we are very excited. I'm very thankful. Thankful that we're healthy and we could come, and that New York's open again, and it's a very exciting night.
Yemena Ortiz came all the way from Barcelona for the tree lighting, something she's wanted to do since she was a little girl.
It's my dream since I was 12, so I think it's very amazing, and it's a dream come true.
Chris Prater came from Tampa, Florida, with his daughter, Ashlyn.
It's exhilarating. It really is. There's lots of places you could be in the world for a night like this, and to be able to see such a massive tree in one of the best cities in the world is one of the greatest feelings in the world.
This year's Rockefeller Center Christmas tree is a 79-foot tall, 46-foot wide Norway spruce from Elkton, Maryland. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And in sport, a collective bargaining agreement between Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association expired last night, but without a new deal in place. So what does this mean for players?
At 12:01 Thursday morning, the league informed the players that it had locked them out, marking the first management lockout since the 1994-95 season. The last 5-year labor agreement between Major League Baseball and the MLBPA was negotiated in 2016 and addressed everything from nutrition and travel to minimum salaries and random drug tests.
We're trying to make the game better. We're trying to make the game more competitive through various means. There's so many different ways that we, as players as a whole, that we believe that we can make the game better, and we're absolutely committed to doing that. And when I hear that every other player, whether young or old, we're all saying the same thing, clubhouse to clubhouse.
League and union negotiators had spent 3 days in Irving, Texas this week trying to reach a deal on the new agreement. But ESPN says talks ended after 7 minutes Wednesday. The main dispute holding both sides back from coming to a new agreement centers around pay. Players argue that not enough of the game's billion-dollar revenue returns to them. Players are also unhappy with free agency rules.
This is not about anyone that operates in the industry or any team individually that operates in the industry. It's the rules. It's the rules, and it's what drives them to be the best team the next year or even then. And when we have something in our rules that creates non-competitiveness and creates something that drives down fan interest.
Under the lockout, teams aren't permitted to speak with players and can't sign new players. Players aren't allowed to use team facilities until a new collective bargaining agreement is reached. Opening day for the 2022 Major League Baseball season is March 31st. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
ProjectorScreen.com says home theater demand has exploded during the pandemic. Meanwhile, an audio software company that works with big Hollywood titles says the movie industry has yet to return to pre-pandemic numbers. NTD's Arlene Richards reports.
Brian Gluck is the owner of ProjectorScreen.com. Gluck saw the home theater industry explode during the pandemic.
Everything with guns off the ground, go!
When the pandemic hit, with the lockdowns and the lack of going out, we saw a tremendous amount of growth of people that were spending more time at home and investing in technology for their house as well to consume and enjoy content at home.
Gluck says business surged 60% between 2019 and 2020 and 80% between 2020 and 2021. Gluck says a certain new technology has also contributed to the boom.
Laser TV or ultra short throw projection. So traditionally, in our area of expertise being large format displays, specifically projection, we were primarily selling into places with dedicated theater rooms. Now with the advent of this laser TV segment, people are able to get large format displays, 100-inch, 120-inch, put in their living room in a moderately to well-lit environment and have a tremendously larger visual image.
Meanwhile, the movie industry is still doing worse than before the pandemic, according to Nuno Fonseca, the CEO of Sound Particles. Sound Particles sells audio software. To movie producers. Their work has been featured in films such as Dune, Wonder Woman, and Batman vs. Superman.
Most of the people that work on the movie industry, they are freelancers, and that means that if there isn't any work available for them, you don't receive a salary, and that we felt, since most of our clients are also freelancers, we felt that impact in terms of them. Luckily, things are starting to move forward, and both studios and most of these professionals were able to adapt. Nonetheless, it's something that we are still far away from the numbers that we got before the pandemic.
Fonseca says business decreased 80% at the beginning of the pandemic, but revenue has recovered substantially since then. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Toys R Us is hoping to have a Merry Christmas with a new store opening planned for this year. The toy store's parent company, WHP Global, released this rendering of the new store, which is slated to open in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The store will be located inside of the American Dream Mall. The location will stretch about 20,000 square feet and will feature a multi-level slide, ice cream parlor, and thousands of toys. WHP hopes to open the store in mid-December, possibly in time for Christmas. If the store does open, it will be the only standalone Toys R Us location currently in the United States. That's after the toy store chain had filed for bankruptcy in 2017 and closed the last of its stores early this year. Parking tickets at New Mexico State University are really cheap to pay off. In fact, getting out of them costs just peanuts. Well, peanut butter, that is. For this week only, the school is letting students donate several jars of peanut butter in lieu of paying tickets. If you get a no current permit ticket, you can either shell out the dough for the fine or spread the love by dropping off at least 80 ounces of peanut butter to the university's parking office or a local pantry. The donations will go to Aggie Cupboard, a food pantry that provides free food assistance to the NMSU community. Depending on the violation, it could prove a really good deal. Parking tickets can run around $35, while 80 ounces of peanut butter will only cost about $14. The deal started on Monday and ends Friday. An episode from a famous TV show has disappeared from Disney's streaming platform in Hong Kong. Its plot features a touchy subject for China's communist regime, the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more.
The 2005 episode is called Goo Goo Gai Pan. In it, the family travels to China to adopt a baby. They stop in Beijing's Tiananmen Square and find a sign that reads, "On this site in 1989, nothing happened," mocking the regime's cover-up of the massacre at that site on June 4th, 1989, when the Chinese military violently cracked down on pro-democracy students. The British Broadcasting Corporation estimates the death toll at around 10,000. And now it's unclear if the Chinese regime is blocking the Simpsons episode or Disney. Communist China's media censorship is growing more stringent, and it's made a priority of censoring information about the '89 massacre. The communist regime considers this information a threat to its legitimacy. Hong Kong used to enjoy more freedom, but it was drastically reduced when the Chinese Communist regime took control. And the National Security Law of 2020 brought most remaining freedoms to a halt. Critics call the law the end of Hong Kong. It allows Beijing to step in to deal with actions that may challenge its authority.
The Women's Tennis Association is suspending all tournaments in China, including Hong Kong. This due to concerns over the safety of Chinese tennis player Peng, who accused China's former vice premier of sexual assault last month. Steve Simon, the association's chairman and CEO, announced the immediate suspension in a statement. Simon writes that the decision is due to the lack of transparency from the Chinese regime following Peng's allegations. He wrote, "In good conscience, I don't see how I can ask our athletes to compete there when Peng Shuai is not allowed to communicate freely." Peng disappeared from view in early November after publicly accusing former Vice Premier Zhang Gaoli of coercing her into sex. While Peng reportedly told the International Olympic Committee she is safe and well, on November 21st, the WTA is not satisfied with the evidence. The CEO says he has serious doubts that she is free, safe, and not subject to censorship, coercion, and intimidation. Simon repeated the association's call for a full investigation without censorship into Peng's accusations. An expert says Sun City CEO Alvin Chow's arrest is likely part of Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping's agenda to reach the top of China's political pyramid.
Cross-border gambling and money laundering. That's what Sun City CEO Alvin Chow is accused of. Experts suggest the charges are part of Beijing's strategy to prevent major private Chinese companies from covertly transferring large sums of money abroad. But it may also be part of the political agenda of the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP's head, Xi Jinping. Chow is dubbed Asia's new gambling king, but this only refers to his business. Some of his epithets in political circles reveal more. Chow was a member of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, one of the most major political entities in the CCP. He also served as an advisor to the Macau branch of the National Association for China's Peaceful Unification. This association is controlled by China's United Front Work Department. The department is deemed by the U.S. government as a CCP propaganda organ dedicated to boosting Beijing's policies, both inside and outside China. Chow is also a supporter of China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. This is another program designed to increase Beijing's influence across the world. But how could Chow contribute this project as a businessman in the gambling industry? The BRI program brings gambling to more countries, especially in Southeast Asia. Chow seems to completely align with the CCP, at least in word and action. So why did he become a target of the regime? Australia-based China Affairs analyst Yuan Hongbing says Chow's arrest relates to the fight for power in the upper echelons of the regime. He says Chow is standing on the wrong side, the side Xi Jinping aims to eradicate. Yuan quoted an inside source in Macau, saying Chow is a so-called white glove for former CCP leader Jiang Zemin and his network of power. In Chinese, the term for white glove refers to a person who helps those in power launder money. Yuan says Chow's arrest is Xi Jinping's attempt to destroy an important financial foundation within Jiang Zemin's base. He explains that Xi Jinping wants to elevate his status to match Mao Zedong, the CCP's founding leader. To do this, he needs to elevate himself above other former leaders of the regime. But there are still some people at the core of the party who openly speak in favor of the previous party leader Jiang Zemin. And so it may be that Xi Jinping is compelled to intensify his political cleansing.
Coming up, a UK company successfully tests a green engine. They say it could propel a rocket into orbit. The company says it uses the cleanest propellants out there. And World Athletics names its Athletes of the Year. 2021's two winners both won gold at the Tokyo Olympics and made history in their races. All that and more in just a minute.
The worst genocide in human history also destroyed the lives of thousands of Jewish survivors still suffering today.
God calls on people who believe in Him to act on His word. Comfort ye, comfort my people.
Especially during this holiday season of Hanukkah.
When I come here and I sit with Lily, I realize what she needs right now is food.
These elderly Jews are weak and they're sick. They're living on $2 a day. This now is how God's children are living. Take this time to send a survival food box to these forgotten Jews.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews urgently need your gift of $25 now.
to help provide one survival food box with all of the essentials they critically need for their diet for 1 month. Your special holiday gift will provide everything they need to celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah.
This is the first time in over 70 years that she has anything to do with faith. The communists came and wiped it out.
Your grandparents?
And now we're coming to her and we're saying, it's okay to have faith. It's okay to light the Hanukkah candles.
For just $25, you can help supply the essential foods they desperately need for 1 month.
For over 35 years, this trusted ministry has given Christians like me a way to tangibly bless Jewish people who are in need throughout the world.
God tells us to take care of them, to feed the hungry. And I pray Holocaust survivors will be given the basic needs that they so desperately pray for to survive.
Austria's former Chancellor Sebastian Kurz announced today he's leaving politics. At 35, he was one of Europe's youngest leaders, but scandals plagued his tenure. Kurz says the recent birth of his child prompted him to make the decision. Kurz was a leader of the Austrian Conservative People's Party. He resigned from his posts 2 months ago amid corruption allegations. He told the media in Vienna that he's neither a saint nor a criminal. Kurz admits to having made mistakes during his 10-year career, but he denies the charges against him. Austrian prosecutors say Kurz is being investigated for suspected bribery and breach of trust. He has not endorsed anyone to succeed him yet. And in Britain, Prime Minister Boris Johnson turned on the Christmas tree lights outside his residence as eager schoolchildren watched and cheered.
Okay, are you ready? Let's count down from 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Flashing lights for a brief moment or two, and then the steady glow that we all know. These lights set to stay bright deep into the night. Humans may soon be heading into space powered by green engines. A British company says it successfully tested an eco-engine that could propel a rocket into orbit. The company says it uses the cleanest propellants out there. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
On a mountain by the Swiss ski resort of Gstaad, a group of scientists are testing a new engine. They say it's capable of powering the upper stage of a rocket with a larger booster stage into orbit. The exhaust speeds of the Pulsar Fusion engine recorded at Mach 7.
We wanted to see the engine running at full pressure, which we achieved with our first test in Switzerland. And to do that, you have to have liquid fuel rather than a gas fuel, which is what we did. And then we wanted to supercharge the engine using nitrogen, and that also worked.
CEO Richard Dinnan argues there's potential for expansion in the European and worldwide space industry, worth billions if investors can be found.
We have a different mindset when it comes to investing. The Americans are very happy to fund things for the technology with more conscientious investing, whereas people in England seem to be they're more interested in quick money and short investment horizons, and that's just not how you invest in sort of space.
According to Dinnan, the engine is powered by nitrous oxide and high-density polyethylene. He claims the combination is cleaner than fuels which power existing rockets.
A lot of engines can be putting out really horrible toxic fumes, things which we really don't want in the environment, and you really be some really nasty sort of products, whereas having majority of water and a little bit of CO2 makes it a very desirable engine. In fact, it's one of the cleanest designs around.
The company's ultimate aim is to design a rocket engine powered by fusion. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Nature offers many lessons for humanity, if we can pause long enough to listen. Let's get some inspiration in this segment with Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie.
You may have heard the quote, "And into the forest I go, to lose my mind and find my soul." Ah, nature. It's a balm for the spirit and an education for the soul. It has nurtured a wealth of poetry and literature. It's also inspired some of the most treasured works of art. And it's moved musicians to create soul-stirring compositions. Beethoven, for example, developed a love of nature in his youth. He enjoyed strolling along the Rhine River with his father. He lost his mother at a young age. His father was an alcoholic, and he started to lose his hearing at the age of 28. However, Beethoven created some of the most beautiful music the world has ever known. Nature spoke and Beethoven listened, translating what he heard into music. Nature has its own rhythm, its own ebb and flow, and we can learn a lot from it. Everything is accomplished in just the way it should be and at just the right time. It exists in a state of interconnectedness and interdependence. Nature moves in cascades, with each element impacting the next. And should any one thing fail to fulfill its role, the whole will be affected. Nature doesn't resist, nor does it look for the easy way out. It's simple and effortless, existing in a state of ease and harmony with the universe. We see examples of this wherever we look, from the migration of birds with the change of seasons, or the babbling brook meandering along its destined path. Our lives also have a path that naturally unfolds before us. However, we may find ourselves complaining, we may wish things were different, or we may fight to make things go a certain way, but we might be missing the best course available to us. When we can't accept our life as it is, we misalign ourselves with reality. The first step in charting a prosperous course is to seek harmony with the way things are. When we understand that the things we encounter can help us grow, our fear, our resistance, and our urge to control can transform into faith, trust, and surrender. Our hearts can become lighter, and we can find calm acceptance and gratitude.
A female sprinter and a male runner are named Athletes of the Year. Both of them gave astonishing, groundbreaking performances at the Tokyo Olympics this summer and beyond. Let's take a look.
World Athletics, the sports body that governs track and field, named Karsten Warholm from Norway Male Athlete of the Year and Elaine Thompson-Herah from Jamaica Female Athlete of the Year. Warholm broke the world record in the men's 400-meter hurdles this year, not once, but twice. He also took home an Olympic gold in the race.
First when I saw the timing, I was like, this must be a mistake, because it's like I didn't see that one coming. And also I didn't see the victory coming before crossing the finish line. It was a very intense race. I knew the American and the Brazilian and all the other guys, they were really, really chasing me. So I always go out hard and I never know what's going on behind me. So, I was just fighting all the way to the finish line. And obviously when I realized 45.94 was a reality, I was thinking, this is not too bad, I'll take it.
Thompson-Herah became the first woman to win back-to-back Olympic sprint doubles at the Tokyo Games. She defended her titles in the 100-meter and 200-meter races, and also won gold in the 4x100-meter relay. Her records in the 100-meter and the 200-meter races both reflect the second fastest in history.
We love history here, and you created history in Tokyo, the double-double. I guess there's no chance that you're going to be remotely thinking about hanging your spikes up for some time.
No, I think I have more. So I'm just using every year to just take it year by year, I went very close to the world record, so, anything is possible.
On top of those honors, the Inspiration Award went to two high jumpers who shared the gold medal in the Tokyo Olympics, while two American runners took the male and the female Rising Star Award.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.